Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our triple helix session. We had the very interesting session of the same topic yesterday, and today we'll have three different speakers. I would like now to introduce to you Mr. Nguyễn Thượng Hải, who is from Intel Vietnam Education Manager. He's been oversees the Intel K-12 Education Initiative and STM still. I don't know what that means. Education in collaboration with the Ministry of Education for a long time. The second speaker is Mr. Nguyễn Quang Việt, who is the Deputy Director of the National Institute of Vocational Training from the Department of Vocational Training. The third speaker would be Mr. Lê Nguyễn Bảo, right? Lê Nguyễn Bảo, who is the Vice Provost at Triton University from Da Nang Province, Da Nang City. Okay, because we have only like 75 minutes, so I would like to remind the speakers that each of you will have a maximum 15 minutes for your presentation, so we'll have more time for discussions with the audience. So thank you very much. The first speaker, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Nguyễn Thượng Hải for the presentation about Intel and Education Alliance. Thank you.
I can make my presentation very short by say good morning and goodbye. Thank you, Mr. Vinh, for the introduction. Distinguished guest. Yesterday and this morning we have a pleasure to listen to very, from distinguished presenter about the trends, about the ideas, about the concept, etc. It's big picture. And we also listened to Melanie. And I still remember in one of the tweets she showed, and what she said is how we can quantify, how we can tell story, and how we, grow it. So instead of going big picture, we would like, on behalf of Intel, I would like to share with you what we are doing and how we achieve. So in line with the theme of the workshop for the last 2 days, I want to share with you all about the Intel and Education Alliance in Vietnam. And my name is Hai, in charge of education programs in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar. First of all, I would like to share with you who we are and why we are here. And Intel Vietnam is, since 2006, we decided to invest in Vietnam, and still the biggest investment project overseas. We invest over $1 billion. And this is the biggest or largest assembly ANT plant outside the US. And we have 5-hectare clean room facilities. And since 2010, we start production. And almost over 50% of chipset are making in this factory. And more, we produce sophisticated products in this factory. Some overview of what we have been doing with labor force. In the factory, we employ both technical and non-technical engineers. But of course, the bulk of the employees are from technical backgrounds. And what we found when we employ students from university, that they have our own good qualification. And of course, when we work for Intel, they have benefit of going through intensive in-house training through, where they learn soft skills and English so that they can improve their, capabilities, so that they can work constructively and collaboratively with the peers in other countries in the different time zones. And at Intel, we also pay very much attention about the gender diversification and grow local workforce, both on technical as well as management level, because that is what we believe in the growth of the company in the country. And the work we do at Intel for education is not just for the staffing, but we're also helping the Ministry of Education through different initiative because we believe that education transformation in help to develop economy in the country where we are. So on that context, we want to share with you what Intel worldwide, doing in education initiative. Every year, Intel spend almost $100 million on different education initiative because we think that new idea plus new thinking or new skills embedded by the technology help empower economy. And we have different programs through like digital inclusion where we help to develop community people through the skills where they can find their jobs, improve their ICT skills or English, etc. We work with Ministry of Information and Communication, VTC, to develop this program together with National University. And this has been included in the program called PC for Life under MIC, and it's very successfully appreciated or evaluated by MIC. In the area of K-12, we also work very closely with Ministry of Education, almost all provinces in Vietnam, to promote, like our speaker this morning about from Microsoft, we help them to integrate effectively ICT in classroom together with 21st century skills in pedagogy. And we almost 100,000 teachers have gone through the program in Vietnam. And plus with that, because the theme of our workshop is about the skills, we also work with Ministry of Education, all technical university to promote STEM education in K-12 level. You imagine that, we promote student research at earlier stage so that when they go to university, they can develop their skills and analytical analysis or all the skills required for the work. So, like what Melanie said, the program was so successfully that in the last 5 years, the Inter-Education program, together STEM education program, was included in yearly strategic education plan, which they revise yearly based on the strategy they want to focus each year. So this is the 5th consecutive years these two programs were included in MOE strategy. So that's what we have been doing, appreciated by teachers, by educators, by MOE officials. We also have program entrepreneurship, helping the training skills for the people so that they can, change their life through the skill they learn. And because in this context, I do not want to focus on this program. I just want to introduce you that you have that program. And the last but not the least is the Inter-Higher Education program, where I would like to share with you today. So what we did, or what is Inter-Higher Education initiative we do in Vietnam? So since 2009, we have been working with various education universities, Ministry of Education, to provide scholarships to students. We also we try to diversify by different cohort, and the last cohort we provide more scholarship for female students. And based on the success we learned from the first phase, we work with MIT to provide more scholarship for master program so that the engineers, after graduating from their respective university, can go to MIT to learn further the English skills, which is very needed for their daily work. Based on our success, USAID, OSAID also provide more scholarship for master program together with MIT. And HIP, that is what we talk about, alliance. I think it's not even before the HIP was established, we already established alliance, because it's not tripartite, but I think we have Intel industry, we have university, we have MOE, we have government. We also students because they are the target, the beneficiary of this program. So in 2010, we work with MOE, Ministry of Labor and Molisa, USAID, various universities on developing this program. And we have gone through the first phase and starting the second phase now. It involved three parties, as I said, government, academia, industry. And we start with a standard-based curriculum, teaching and methodology. First, focus on engineering faculty and at both university and vocational school. We just pilot at 7 universities, and ASU is also our partner in implementing this program. So what is HIP and what are the target audience for this program? So HIP stands for Higher Engineering Education Alliance Program. So we touch or we train, we together with our partners, train touching the leadership, because like our speaker this morning, the leadership or management is very important in leading the change at the school. We also have to train the faculty teachers or the educators, because they are that because teacher very important. If the management change, but the teacher does not change, also does not help. So we work with different partners. ASU, we train almost 625 administrative leaders and almost more than 10,000 faculty educators also gone through the program. We also focus on diversification and also instruction or like methodology training. And part of the program also we focus on the curriculum and facilities, infrastructure, because without that they do not have tools to present the ideas. And to support the landscape training, we also promote distance learning together with English. So these are the components of the HIP program where we work with 7, 8 university in this program. So how it works, like you see, we have government, academia, industry. So we can see that which one play in this role, where each very important, each party have an important role to make it successful in this program. So objective is we want to make sure that 100% of the faculty or university take this part in bed compliance. We hope that to have a curriculum in English and taught in English. We also have management training in the program, and more female educators and students involved in technical training, and of course government issue policy and incentive to make program. And through our experience in this program, we learned that partnership, together collaboration closely between the partner, we make the program successful and scalable. So having said that, I'd like to stop my presentation here, and I would like to be very happy to take the question if I cannot answer. So I would also have our team from SU here to support me in answer your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hai. It's perfectly timely. So thank you again for that. The second speaker, I would like to invite Mr. Viet from the government side. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Vinh, for introduction. Since I want to have an audience in this room, maybe change the headphone, particularly for Vietnamese audience. I would like to present in Vietnamese. Do you agree? I have to say, in this room, my English not so well. Thank you so much. Kính thưa toàn thể quý vị, trong cái session của chúng ta đấy, với cái tên là Triple Helix, thì đây là một cái khái niệm rất là mới ít nhất là cho khu vực TVET và phát triển kỹ năng ở Việt Nam. Thế thì trong cái phần trình bày của tôi nói rất ngắn gọn những cái nhận diện về cái mô hình này và cái khả năng áp dụng cho cái hệ thống của Việt Nam thì nó như thế nào, từ chính sách đến thực tiễn. Thứ nhất là phải trả lời câu hỏi tại sao lại cần cái triple helix ở trong cái hệ thống phát triển kỹ năng và dạy nghề của Việt Nam, khi mà nó xuất phát điểm của nó là từ khu vực của academic, của khu vực Hàn Lâm, của các cái khối các cái trường đại học. Mà tôi xin nhắc lại đại học Hàn Lâm, bởi vì không phải đại học nào của Việt Nam nó về mặt bản chất là Hàn Lâm. Đấy là chúng ta phải thừa nhận như vậy. Chính như vậy trong cái hệ thống của Việt Nam này nó mới phân tầng ra, thì có những cái đại học thiên về nghiên cứu, có những đại học thiên về nghề nghiệp và ứng dụng. Thứ hai là đối với triple helix nguyên thể của nó thì đấy cái mục tiêu của cái mô hình lý thuyết này là để sản sinh tri thức, mà bản chất đấy là sứ mệnh của các trường đại học. Đấy là khả năng tranh biện, đấy là khả năng tạo ra những cái tri thức mới, những cái sáng tạo và đổi mới, thậm chí về mặt khoa học nó có thể đi trước về mặt công nghệ trong thực tiễn. Đấy là một cái đặc trưng rất rõ của đại học khi nó phân biệt với TVET sector. Thế nhưng mà đối với cái skill development thì đây là một cái hệ thống nó có thể nó khác, nó có những cái đặc trưng nó khác, mà buộc chúng ta nếu mà không nhận diện một cách rõ ràng thì rất có thể chúng ta chỉ ở trên giấy thôi. Như thế ai nói nó rút kinh nghiệm rất nhiều những cái mô hình, những cái lý thuyết khi mà người ta nói thì rất hay trên paper mà không bao giờ đi vào được thực tiễn được nếu mà anh không nhận diện nó, cái vai trò sứ mệnh mục tiêu của nó là cái gì. Cái nhân tố thứ ba tức là từ các cái khi mà nói về cái triple helix thì chúng ta nói những cái quan hệ, cái vòng xoắn tay ba. Ở đây tôi nói là vòng xoắn chứ không phải là tương tác song phương của ba cái thành tố này, là trường đại học, chính phủ và các cái ngành công nghiệp. Thế thì trong cái mô hình này nếu mà chuyển sang cái lĩnh vực TVET thì chỉ có một nhân tố là thay đổi, đấy là từ các trường đại học mà chuyển sang các cái cơ sở đào tạo nghề và đào tạo kỹ năng. Đây là cái điểm mà có lẽ là chúng tôi cũng muốn nhấn mạnh ở cái chỗ này, và nó sẽ thay đổi cái triết lý của triple helix khi áp dụng sang phát triển kỹ năng. Thế thì từ cái mô hình cái hộp đen chúng ta coi như cái TVET và TVET, cái hệ thống của nó là một cái hộp đen, thì đầu vào của nó là cái gì? Đấy là những người thất nghiệp, đấy là những người mà thiếu việc làm, đấy là những cái người mà thiếu hụt kỹ năng. Có khi người ta không hẳn chỉ là những cái học sinh phổ thông, mà những cái người mà đang lao động nhưng mà anh đang thiếu hụt những kỹ năng đó. Và các cái nguồn lực khác, tức là giáo viên, rồi vấn đề chính sách vân vân, thì tất cả những cái đó nó được đưa vào đầu vào. Và như anh Hải, Intel Việt Nam anh đề xuất ví dụ như là vấn đề của cơ sở tầng về trang thiết bị vân vân, những cái đó đầu vào được đưa vào cái hộp đen này để nó xử lý, làm thế nào đó để ra được cái output, cái đầu ra của chúng ta là những cái gì? Là những người có việc làm, những người lao động có kỹ năng, mà đây chúng tôi phân tầng ra là skill workers và professionals. Đấy là hai cái mà cũng là một cái điểm phân biệt với cái khu vực của academic. Tới cái mô hình chung của các cái hệ thống khi mà chúng ta nói đến cái sự tương tác giữa các cái cấu phần của hệ thống ở đây thì chúng tôi xác định là theo cái triple helix là có ba cái thành tố chính. Đấy là khu vực của chính phủ, khu vực của các cái cơ sở đào tạo và khu vực bên các ngành công nghiệp. Ba cái cấu phần này nó tương tác với nhau như thế nào thì để hướng đến một cái mục tiêu, cái output như tôi vừa nói, tức là đầu ra là những cái school worker và những cái professional, những cái người hành nghề một cách chuyên nghiệp. Như vậy thì nó không phân biệt vấn đề đây là cái anh thợ hay là những cái người kỹ sư hay là trình độ cao hơn nữa. Thế thì từ cái output đó, cái mong đợi đó nó sẽ quay trở lại của nó đấy là cái gắn đến cái sự phát triển kinh tế xã hội, tức là vòng ngoài của cái hệ thống này nó tạo ra nhu cầu, mà nhu cầu chính là bằng kỹ năng, tức là niche ở đây trong trường hợp này nó phải chuyển thể hoàn toàn thành những cái purpose. Tất nhiên là khi cái sản phẩm của cái hệ thống này nó ra đời, tức là các cái kỹ năng, những cái tri thức, kỹ năng và năng lực, thậm chí là những cái talent, những cái tài năng của con người, thì nó được cái xã hội, cái bên ngoài, cái vòng ngoài của nó đánh giá và có được những cái thông tin phản hồi để hệ thống này tiếp tục điều chỉnh. Và như vậy cái vòng này, cái chu trình này, đây không phải là một chu trình tuyến tính và nó không có cái mẫu số chung, không có cái công thức chung cho cái triple helix. Và đây nó phụ thuộc vào cái hệ thống ngoại vi, tức là các cái supra-system. Cho nên nếu về thể chế chính trị, về vấn đề văn hóa, về vấn đề xã hội của các quốc gia khác nhau thì cái mô hình này nó sẽ được áp dụng khác nhau và chúng ta không bao giờ copy được theo cái mô hình nguyên thể của nó. Và từ đây thì chúng tôi có một vài cái nhận diện về mặt chính sách và thực tiễn qua cái quan sát của chúng tôi ở khu vực Việt Nam cũng như ở trong khu vực mà có một số cái hợp tác quốc tế, vì chủ đề của chúng ta hiện nay nó cũng gắn đến với cái hợp tác quốc tế trong cái mô hình này. Thứ nhất là khi chúng ta nói đến cái quan hệ Tây Ba này thì chúng tôi đề cập có mấy cái hoạt động chính. Thứ nhất là cái đào tạo tại doanh nghiệp, đào tạo tại chỗ, rồi thực tập, rồi vấn đề là đào tạo tại doanh nghiệp, tức là nó có cái sự phân biệt như vậy. Thế nhưng mà thử hỏi về cái vấn đề, tôi chỉ lấy đơn cử về thực tập thì cái chất lượng thực tập là rất có vấn đề, từ đại học đến khu vực dạy nghề. Người ta bàn đến cái này rất nhiều và chưa có ai trả lời được một cách chính xác. Tại sao thì có sinh viên đi thực tập lại có được tiền của công ty trả, có những cái sinh viên đi thực tập thì phải mất tiền, có những cái sinh viên đi thực tập thì không mất tiền, có những cái sinh viên đại học đi đến thực tập chỉ để gấp phong bì, có những cái sinh viên đi thực tập đến chỉ ngó nghiêng. Ví dụ như khu vực của kế toán tài chính rất khó can thiệp được thực tập thực sự, thì đấy là vấn đề của thực tập. Tôi không nói tất cả nhưng mà nó sẽ khi mà bàn đến quan hệ Tây Ba, mặc dù cái quy định của nhà nước rất rõ ràng, của chính phủ rất rõ ràng, doanh nghiệp phải làm cái gì, doanh nghiệp được cái gì, nhưng mà những cái phải, những cái được ấy nó chưa vào được cuộc sống. Thì vậy thì tại sao? Đấy là câu chuyện mà tôi sẽ nói là nó là cái gì ở đây? Ở cái phần chìm của tảng băng là cái gì? Rồi vấn đề của phát triển chương trình, phát triển kỹ năng ở Việt Nam, chúng tôi thấy rằng là có một vài cái thực tiễn rất tốt khi chúng tôi làm việc với các cái tập đoàn, tổng công ty. Ví dụ như tập đoàn Điện lực, ví dụ như dệt may, ví dụ như là Vinacomin, doanh nghiệp vào với chúng tôi làm rất tốt. Và chúng tôi nghĩ rằng đấy là ít nhất là nó có cái sự thành công khi mà xây dựng chương trình cũng như phát triển kỹ năng. Còn các cái tập đoàn tổng công ty khác chúng tôi làm mời các cái chuyên gia rất khó. Thế thì từ ngày hôm qua giờ các diễn giả nói nhiều đến cái gọi là skinhead, nhưng mà trong thực tế những cái skinhead rồi thì những cái skinhead, các doanh nghiệp không bao giờ nói đến know-how, không bao giờ nói đến bí quyết của họ. Đấy là cái bí quyết cạnh tranh. Cho nên nếu mà muốn xây dựng một cái tiêu chuẩn chung, một cái mẫu như vậy thì rất khó khăn. Người ta chỉ nói những cái gì mà mang tính chất rất phổ biến. Thì đấy là một vấn đề khi mà chúng tôi làm trong cái việc phát triển chương trình về kỹ năng. Cái vấn đề thứ ba, một cái ví dụ thôi, đấy là cái dự án đào tạo nghề cho lao động nông thôn đấy chẳng hạn. Khi ta nói đến cái industry, nhiều khi mình cứ nói đến cái gì đó nó chỉ có dành cho các tập đoàn tổng công ty. Ở cái đất nước Việt Nam này trên 90% là doanh nghiệp vừa và nhỏ. Và trong cái dự án 1956 đào tạo nghề cho những cái người lao động nông thôn của chúng tôi ấy, chúng tôi phát hiện ra được rằng là nó đã về mặt chính sách thì rất tốt, thực hiện thì nó cũng sẽ còn nhiều vấn đề. Khi mà yêu cầu đầu ra của các khóa học là người học tối thiểu 80% có việc làm. Các doanh nghiệp, tôi xin thưa rằng có nhiều doanh nghiệp nói rằng là bảo đảm đến 100%, không phải 80%. Nhưng sau một tháng tất cả những người lao động đó người ta về quê, người ta không làm gì cả. Bởi vì lương thì thấp, làm việc thì nhiều, điều kiện lao động kém, chắc chắn là người ta không làm. Nhưng doanh nghiệp bảo đấy tôi không phải 80%, chỉ có 100%. Chính phủ thì ra những cái tiêu chí đánh giá hiệu quả của cái đào tạo. Xin thưa là có một cái tiêu chí là sau một năm thì thu nhập của cái người học nghề đó, của cái hộ gia đình đó tăng lên 20%. Tôi xin thưa là không bao giờ có chuyện đó đâu. Ví dụ tôi trực tiếp tôi đi giám sát và đi thực tiễn thì tôi thấy rằng là có những cái nghề khi tôi dạy cho bà con ấy là nghề trồng quýt, thì đúng là người Việt Nam chúng tôi có câu đợi đến mùa quýt. Bởi vì sau 5 năm mới thu hoạch quýt, sau 1 năm tôi xuống thì cái cây quýt nó chỉ được dài được có 1 mét và chả có quả gì. Đấy là trồng quýt, chứ còn trồng mây 10 năm. Vậy khi đánh giá cái hiệu quả này đánh giá như thế nào? Thế thì cái câu chuyện từ chính sách đến thực tiễn nó cũng lại vướng. Vấn đề thứ một cái hợp tác nữa mà tôi cũng rất muốn chia sẻ ở đây, tức là các cái doanh nghiệp Messer và Debarun, ví dụ thế, Bosch của Đức, những cái doanh nghiệp đó đang hoạt động ở Việt Nam, chúng tôi đã xây dựng và đang làm cái việc này rồi. Cái mô hình thí điểm tức là đào tạo kép, học thực hành cơ bản và lý thuyết trong trường và sau đó thực hành tại các cái công ty đó. Doanh nghiệp trả lương, ký hợp đồng. Nhưng mà khi để vào cuộc này thì doanh nghiệp người ta cũng có cái nhu cầu. Thứ hai là Tổng cục dạy nghề, tổ chức GIZ sẽ là cái cơ quan điều phối và giám sát. Để như thế là nó cân bằng lợi ích giữa các cái bên thì câu chuyện đó mới đạt được. Tức là nó phải có cái nhu cầu tự thân, chứ còn chẳng có ai bảo ai phải làm cái gì cả. Ở đây chúng ta không thể đưa ra những cái obligation được. Và vì vậy thì chúng tôi thấy rằng cái vấn đề là lợi ích và chi phí, cái cost benefit dứt khoát phải là một cái nền tảng. Chúng ta nói rất nhiều đến người khác phải làm gì, nhưng mà tôi thì trong cái quan sát của tôi nghĩ rằng là vấn đề cốt lõi là cost benefit. Khi doanh nghiệp muốn trả tiền thì sau 4 cái tuần thực tập đó, những người học, người thực tập không làm được gì ra lợi ích cho doanh nghiệp, không bao giờ họ trả tiền cả, chứ không thể yêu cầu, vân vân. Thì có rất nhiều những cái thứ mà khi chúng ta bàn cái này thì gần như là chỉ đứng theo ở một phương diện thôi. Thì trong khâu giám sát và đánh giá như tôi nói, về đề hiệu quả cũng như vậy. Nếu làm thế nào đo được thì có những cái đo bằng tiền, nhưng có cái đo hiệu quả không thể bằng tiền được. Đấy là vấn đề của xã hội. Chính vì vậy thì cái trách nhiệm xã hội của doanh nghiệp và trách nhiệm xã hội của các cái cơ sở đào tạo ở đây là cái gì? Tôi lấy ví dụ như đào tạo nghề trong nông thôn đấy, để người ta thoát khỏi những cái nghề nông nghiệp ấy chẳng hạn, thì đấy vấn đề của trách nhiệm xã hội, chứ không phải là chỉ có vấn đề chỉ cost benefit. Và chúng ta cũng như tôi nói là không thể có cái mẫu số chung cho cả một quốc gia theo cái mô hình super helix. Do vậy thì chúng ta phải bắt đầu bằng những cái practice, bằng những cái hành động rất là cụ thể thì chúng ta mới giải quyết được. Vấn đề nữa là cái skill matching, thì khi mà cái sự gắn kết cái nhu cầu cung cầu của kỹ năng ấy, giữa bên cung đào tạo và bên cầu bên doanh nghiệp, thì đấy là một cái mục tiêu động. Cái thay đổi công nghệ thay đổi, kỹ năng thay đổi, nhưng mà khi mà đào tạo kỹ năng thì nó mất thời gian, và như vậy thì đến lúc đào tạo xong mà đáp ứng được thì có thể nó đã có cái độ trễ về mặt thời gian rồi. Và cái điểm nữa tôi muốn bàn đây là khi mà trong TVET thì cái sinh viên người ta chỉ nghĩ học nghề là chỉ có lao động trực tiếp, lao động chân tay. Đấy là quan niệm sai lầm. Người học nghề người ta có thể ra người ta làm chủ, chứ không phải là chỉ có đi làm thuê. Doanh nghiệp vừa và nhỏ, những cái household, người ta kinh doanh trong gia đình, những cái hộ kinh doanh, ví dụ trong lĩnh vực du lịch người ta làm homestay, tại sao lại không phải làm chủ mà cứ nghĩ là đi làm thuê, cứ nghĩ là lao động trực tiếp? Người ta được quyền ở đó, mặc dù người ta không phải là quản lý cấp cao. Trong các doanh nghiệp cũng vậy, người ta những cái middle management hoàn toàn là cái khu vực của TVET nó có thể cung ứng được những cái lực lượng như vậy. Và các cái điểm mà cần quan tâm ở đây đó là cái sự chia sẻ và sự minh bạch, đặc biệt là những cái mà chúng tôi nói là những cái skill need. Ai có thể nói được nhu cầu cần cái gì, cần bao nhiêu, nó mức độ rộng hẹp như thế nào, rồi thì khi nào thì cần, rồi thì khi nào thì cái skill matching đó nó đạt được, nó xuất hiện, khi nào thì nó phụ thuộc vào những cái nguyên tắc, những cái quy tắc và những cái sự gọi là sẵn sàng, available information về cái skill needs. Thì tôi thấy rằng qua các dự án, thậm chí các dự án hợp tác quốc tế với APEC, cái khu vực hợp tác kinh tế Thái Bình Dương ấy, đấy một trong những cái thất bại, không phải thất bại mà có lẽ nó chưa đạt được là do chia sẻ thông tin giữa các quốc gia. Mà đây các công ty đa quốc gia, tôi không biết là anh Hải Intel như thế nào, nhưng mà sự chia sẻ thông tin giữa các công ty đa quốc gia, giữa các quốc gia là nó không được tốt, và vì vậy cái dự án đấy nó cũng đã rất hạn chế. Trên đây là một vài những cái điểm mà chúng tôi cũng muốn, vì thời gian nó không có nhiều, rất mong là quý vị chúng ta có thể có những câu hỏi, có bình luận sau đây. Xin cảm ơn.
Well, thank you very much. Another timely presentation. So we are on track very, very well. So the next session, the next presentation will be Mr. Lê Nguyên Bảo from the academic side. He's from Da Nang, and hopefully later on we'll have a very good discussion. Thank you.
My name is Bao, and I come from Da Nang University. University is just for your information, is the first and biggest private university in central Vietnam. We have a student population of around 18,000 students, together with another like 2,000 or 3,000 distance learning students, e-learning students. And today I'm here to present a case study of how we improve our students' employability. I was a bit surprised though, because mostly here are people from vocational school, while I'm more of an academic institution. But first, let me start the presentation. We have like around like almost like 1 million students entering college every year. And the official number is 400,000 and 405,000 students who get graduated every year. But will most of them get the right job? That's a big question. And I think under this economic condition, that's even a harder question. And so I will present the lesson we got at our school over the years. Of course, this is triple helix, so I will talk more from the perspective of a provider. And I will also talk about from the perspective of the industry and from the government. Of course, I don't speak for them, but I think like there are certain ideas that we want to share, and we hope that if they take it in, maybe we can make it a better situation for all of us. So at first, from our perspective, what can we provide? And I start this with a case study at my university about the job placement ratio within 6 months and a year of graduation. And we attain a ratio of like 89% within 6 months. That's an impressive ratio, especially given the condition in central Vietnam. But that is only for college graduates. If you look at like associate degree graduates or even vocational associate degrees levels, the number at our school is much lower. We also have a vocational school in our university system for your information. I think the ratio for the vocational school at our school is probably less than 50%. And why we get such a ratio? This is the social assumption, what we get back, the feedback from the society that our graduates are very proactive in their approach. I think because mostly over the years we try to put in many more soft skill training courses. That's one thing. And another thing is they consider our instructor to be more practical, because around the university we also have a system of affiliations and companies that work in software development, in electrical engineering, and in architecture design. And many of our staff are also like working on projects for businesses in the city. So one way or another, they may not be that academic like some other traditional school in Vietnam, but probably that's a strong point from our perspective. But as you see, the social assumption and all that kind of numbers is only more of a quantitative study, and the social assumption more or less, I don't know whether it's accurate or not. That's what we get back from the society. So we start with maybe we should try to test two hypotheses, because given that most of our students get the jobs, whether they get the right jobs and whether they get a satisfactory level of income, that's one question. And another question is whether they actually meet the requirements of our partnering businesses. And of course, the study goes through a lot of surveys with our students, our graduate students, and also the employers, exit survey, all kind of survey. But I will jump to right through to some number. We have around only 64% get the right kind of jobs. And this 64% is out of those who get the jobs, not for those who don't get the jobs. And also in terms of the significance test, we have error margin of 5%, and we also failed that test. So I believe we could conclude that our students did not get the right kind of jobs they want, because we could set the right percentage for this should be at least 70% or more. But on the other hand, most of them perceive that they have a satisfactory level of income. I don't know whether this is true or not, because this is as perceived by the students, but I believe that the growth of income in Vietnam is very fast over the year, because originally our income is low. So I believe more or less this can be true. As for the second hypothesis, in general, I could say like most of our graduates, and this is college graduates, they meet the requirements. But there is a huge gap, a significant gap between the perception of our graduates and the perception of the employers. The employers believe that our students need much more training in certain aspects of their study as well as other soft skills and things. So what we did right from the beginning to get that kind, because we also have a qualitative part of this study. And one of the things is around 8 years ago, we tried to redesign our curriculum. And one of the things is we tried to increase the amount of teaching hours in general education and core knowledge. And we try to decrease the amount of training in major or in the concentration. One of the reasons is because before the workload in the concentration in Vietnam is really high. Sometimes it's up to like 40%. And that, I believe, it hinders interdisciplinary study. And of course, with general education, we put in a lot of soft skills courses, but one lesson we learn over time is that we need to train the soft skills for the students so that they can use that soft skills in their line of specialty. Not just like they learn public speaking or professional writing and that's it. But it's more like they learn their public speaking to serve like civil engineering or writing for technical writing in some discipline. And we also increase the amount of practical training, lab hours, and on-the-job training. I believe the average percentage we have right now is somewhere between 35% to 40% for practical training. And also, since we think we're quite lagging behind the world in terms of course materials, one of the things we try to do is we just go out, like 7 years ago, we make contact to a bunch of universities in America, and we go through a series of agreements in which we import their curriculum and course materials. Of course, it also goes together with a training package for our instructors during the summer. And you can see here there's a whole bunch of universities. Some can be very much research-oriented, and like Cal Poly, they're more like vocational oriented. Yeah. And another thing is we try to bring in like more exchange students, and we have a lot of students coming from Singapore, specifically from Singapore Polytechnic and from Nanyang Technology University every year, in which they work with our students in choice projects. They call it OITP, Overseas Immersion Program, I believe. And we also send our students back to them. From time to time, we have students coming from the US and also from Europe, but usually they come in for a very short period of time, usually 2 or 3 weeks. And usually for 2 or 3 weeks, it does not make that much of a difference to our effort. And so far, we don't make this mandatory yet because not all Vietnamese students can afford to go overseas for exchange. Another thing we try to do is we adopt a new way of teaching, and for engineering and technology, we try to adopt the CDIO model. There's a society for this initiative, headed, I believe, by MIT and also some school in Sweden. And then we also join the effort with PBL, problem-based learning, with Aalborg University in Denmark. I believe they're the UNESCO representative for PBL. And another thing we did right, I believe, was we set the outright standards for our graduates. Like they need to get certain amount of scores for their English or computer skill or different kind of skills. And so far you can see we get more skills training, more student exchange. And I believe this one we get this year is financed by the British Council in Taiwan. And what not so right? What not so right, I could say, In some aspect, we try to focus so much on soft skill development. And at first, we make the mistake that we don't train the soft skill to serve specific discipline. That's one of the things. Another thing is we try to bring in a lot of international programs, but we don't have that many international students. Most of the international students, I would say, from Laos or Cambodia. So that's not good, because I believe a strong international learning environment will help our students a lot. Also, the training in entrepreneurship is kind of dogmatic. Like you need to follow this step, that step, and then you get there. And usually you need to spend time for your idea rather than for other things. I have one student, I sent him to the US for a competition financed by Microsoft and University of Washington, and when he came back, he told me he wanted to drop out so that he can start his business. I said, you should really think about it. Eventually he dropped out, and then now he's unemployed. I'm so sorry about that. So I think there's certain problem in our way of training for this. And also another thing is, when we work with the industry, if we adopt all of their teaching or training programs, sometimes it's just not right. One of the companies come to me and say, I want you to teach most of the program in Japanese because I need to work with the Japanese company. And for some time we did that, and it did not work out that well when our student cannot get job with them. And I believe there are certain values that I will be really quick with this because I don't speak for the industry or for the government, but I will point out certain things. The industry, there are certain values they can recognize. Working with university, they can have new recruits, and also through a bunch of competition and tournaments, they can identify the right kind of talents. One of the problems is in Vietnam, most of the businesses are small or medium, and usually they tell us we don't have that kind of money to put in those kind of projects, like research or scholarship for the student. And I think that's one of the things that the government really needs to look into. And also, I believe more or less the industry will realize the following values. The labor cost in Vietnam is still low. That's one of the things. The growth rate of this market is still strong. So I believe there's still a lot of room for opportunities. And if there can be joint project between school and businesses with the help of the government, maybe in terms of policy, like tax redemption or something like that, tax refund, something like that, it is going to help a lot. And I will go to the last slide with the policy, I would say, because here now I think like most of you may be talking about vocational school. So I think at the college level, now, a few years ago, we're not free to change our curriculum, but now we're free. But at the vocational level, the curriculum is still very strict, and we cannot put that much of the new things in. Usually we have to follow the strict guidelines. That's one of the things. Another thing is, I believe if we can have the practicing licenses for certain kind of vocation, that can help a lot. And this should go together with the wage floor. Because let's say if you have the wage floor, then the industry will have, the small and medium businesses will have more multi to hire people with licenses. And then if you have the licenses already, then you can impose the minimum wage. And not just like hiring somebody out there with low pay, which is a very popular situation in Vietnam now. And of course, like I mentioned before, if there can be some tax exemption or refund, that would be great. Thank you.
Well, that's very good. Thank you very much. We have the wonderful presentations from different point of views from the government, from the industry, and from the academy. What we are discussing today is how can we can formalize, make it more effective with the model of triple helix. So the question is, when we are talking about triple helix, right? The parties in these models have to work very closely together, interactively. Even they can engage in the activities of the other parties to help boosting the vocational training. So my question is, how do you see the roles of the other parties in helping you to boost the vocational training? So my question, first of all, to Mr. Hai. As far as you've been working with the Ministry of Education and Training, and also you worked with the academies quite a bit, and can you please tell us what you expect the government to involve, or how do you see the government's roles in helping to develop further the triple helix?
It's a difficult, interesting question. I think this should be for Mr. Viet from the government sector to answer. I think it's much more relevant. But from industry perspective, I think, like I said earlier, when we work with Education Alliance, I think it's not just three-party. Sometimes we say it's just a triple matrix sitting on each other, because it's not just academy. Academy is just one entity, but we have to deal with educators. We deal with different layers of decision makers. So what can I say that we work from top down and bottom up and horizontal. So that's the way we make it works. And because like from Mr. Viet, government perspective, for them to issue policy, they must see whether it works, whether it's applicable. It's not only one place, but in other, relevant or general places in Vietnam. Because from policy, they must have a bird's eye, view for whole country. So I think it's a coordinated effort, not by industry alone, but also by academy, by government officials. We involve a lot in discussion and discussion and a lot of argument, So it's a long way, a long journey.
I want to develop it further a bit, because the government can easily tell what they should do. Okay, but I want to see from your point of view whether the government should be the investor in education, in vocational training. Is that their main responsibilities? You think? Or the industries like yourselves should be, taking part of that?
I think each party has its own role to play. And I think the introduction to this workshop said that sometimes we have to step out of our, own shape and think of other people's wants. So sometimes we have to initiate. So like today, we present is on the role as an initiator, as beneficiary, as contributor, as we play a lot. Sometimes we play this role, sometimes we play other role. But the role of Minister of Education is still Minister of Education. Industry, just industry. We said we provide input what industry wants. We work academy where we understand what they can provide us, and of course we play different roles. But in the end, each party has played its main role as input.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to ask this question to Mr. Viet. When we are talking about enterprises, about businesses, we always talk about scholarship. We always talk about whether they can accept our apprentice, about trainees. I think we all think about the roles of the businesses. Very, very simple. And what we think about them is to provide some sort of financial support. But the question, as you raised at the very beginning, that many students get out of these schools, graduated, and they did not have the right job. So the question is, do we have the right training for the businesses that they may need in the future. And I feel that there is some sort of gap between the training, the objectives of the training, and the need from the enterprises, from the businesses. So why don't we involve the businesses as part of information provider, part of the training courses, so they can, have the right skills that they need in the future. So how do you think about that kind of roles from the enterprises?
Okay, as I mentioned before, in Vietnam, the government have a lot of policy and regulation on the business engagement into Tibet and skill development, for example. However, when we invited expert and a representative from business side, they send sometimes someone who was not really expert in the field, for example. But some other companies and the particularly state company owner, they send some really expert in the field because they recognize what is the benefit we can get from this activities. So when we are talking about triple helix models for Tibet and the skill development, that is not only cost benefit based, but also responsibility, accountability, and autonomy for the company, and as well as for the university or the Tibet provider. Mr. Bao, he mentioned that the curriculum that's issued by the Ministry of Education and Training. Okay, so if they have to deliver training costs based on curriculum at national level, it's difficult for them to do autonomous curriculum and our learning outcome assessment. So when we are talking about triple helix, it should not be focused on bilateral relationships between the government and enterprises, and the university, but the helix cooperation.
Yeah, it's the same question for Mr. Bao, because you're talking about the difficulties that your academy working with the enterprises, and you have some difficulties involving them into your education. So how do you expect the industries to be involved more? I mean, if you can give some wishes.
I think for the collaboration between university and colleges with the industry, I think we probably will need some time to wait, because actually, like I mentioned, most of the businesses in Vietnam are small or medium, and they're not that willing to enter into the kind of financial commitment yet. But I believe the government can help, because one of the things that in recent years I found that the government did the right job was they set up the student loan, and the student loan has helped a lot of students and people with financial problem to go to school, especially to vocational school. And I believe if they have a strong strategy, maybe the next step should be they should invest for the collaboration between the small and medium businesses with the school or with the students themselves for certain kind of projects. And I believe this kind of money for certain project will not be that much. Maybe one project only a couple of $1,000 or less will help stir the whole thing up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. One of the reports from the World Bank in Vietnam and pointing out the shortage of skills in Vietnam. That is the major obstacles for most of the companies to as implying new students, graduated students, and we've been discussing that whether we should involve the industries in providing, training courses, special training courses that the companies may have, and even using the facilities of the academies as part of the vocational trainings for the enterprises. So that is one of the questions that we discussed before. So now I would like to give the floor to questions from the audience. And maybe you have comment, please. Yeah, please.
My first question is to Mr. Hai. I was really impressed by what you are doing in Vietnam in terms of your involvement in education and also the amount of money you're putting in this project. But I couldn't decide whether you're doing it for the sake of social responsibility or because you need to promote vocational and upskill people for your own needs. I mean, this is my question, if you like. And to Mr. Bao, your university is a private one, you talk a lot about entrepreneurship, but what you are doing in terms of preparing students for the careers? We know that in some universities in the West, they have career development centers or career guidance centers. Do you have something similar, or if not, what you are doing exactly? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. I think it's simple. The Intel strategy is everywhere we have activity, we try to contribute back to the society. So it's natural that we have a lot of corporate social responsibility activity. But at the same time, it also helps us in the long term, because the country develop, so it help to grow the company as well. So it go in parallel. And we, besides this education program, we also have a lot of other community programs where we support the community, where we support unprivileged or underprivileged students, or we work with plan organization where we support them in the training of those people in need of the skills for their success in their life. So it's both parallel. Yeah.
For your questions, yes, of course, we're a private institution, and in Vietnam, being private is not easy. I would say, for the partnership with the industry, usually for a long period of time, we were just sitting there and waiting for them to come, and actually, that did not work out. Eventually, we have to set up certain projects, and we put in certain amount of financial investment. Usually, those kinds of investment, we see its benefits for our whole system of affiliation, like companies around the school. And from that on, I think then we have more projects, and that's also when the business is actually coming back to help us. But before that, when we just sit there and wait, just once in a while maybe. And for the government, I think, like I mentioned about curriculum development, I think it's freeing up a lot right now at the bachelor and graduate level, but still at the vocational school. And I mean, this is not going to be the duty of the Ministry of Education and Training, but more like the duty within the responsibility of the Ministry of Labor and Invalid and Social Affairs. Still very strict. And this year, I believe the number of vocational students we can recruit continue to drop dramatically.
Yeah, that's it, really big.
I can have one point to add to your question. Your question is relevant to industry, but also at the country level, I think they have the same. A few years back, we only heard about the economic stimulus package. So I heard the story that in Germany, the government, in order to encourage people to buy more car. They can subsidize 3,000 euro for people scrap their old car and buy new car. So it's not only supporting automobile industry, but also support social, because more job, less problems. So this is from country level. They also think about your question as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Another question, please. Can you also please say your name and where you're from? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Nick Balkrishan. I'm from a college in South Africa. Yesterday, when many of the speakers spoke to us, they spoke about the importance of soft skills to enhance employment opportunities and make us better in the workforce. Yet when Dr. Bao spoke to us now, he says to not overemphasize soft skills. So I just wanted to know what's the rationale behind him saying that. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Bao.
A good answer to that, because when we set up our soft skill training courses at our school, we mostly set up a bunch of courses. We have like one in professional speaking, one in professional writing, another one in critical thinking, another one in job finding skills. Eventually we have to change that to career development skills, because students, they just go out and they said, I cannot find jobs. And you just train me with the skill to find jobs, not just the skills to start businesses. So what I mentioned about here is like for a long period of time, soft skill was not in the curriculum, any curriculum in Vietnam. So then when we realized that, everyone running for that. You can see like there's so many centers, not just university or colleges, they set up just to train soft skills. And those soft skills, whether they help the student or not, I'm not so sure. Because they just train it in a very general or sometimes very specific soft skills for certain industry. And with that, I could believe that for quite some time, I believe like 3 or 4 years now, people always talk about soft skills. But whether that soft skills really work out to serve the career they follow later, I think we did not touch that. And I think this will be a very different question in developed countries, because you guys already recognized that a long time ago. But in Vietnam, when we run for soft skills, that means anything soft. Thank you.
Well, a very interesting point, but actually this Q&A will lead to another discussion, is whether we can customize the soft skills training programs for different kinds of industries and companies. So that's why, again, how do you find the need of the soft skills from different industries that you can adopt to your students? That's the big question. Yeah, Mr.
That's for supplementation, the soft skills. Mr. Vinh mentioned a report for the skill development system by
World Bank, yes,
Bank.
Earlier this year.
I do agree with the report on the skill development system, including soft skills. That is not only responsible from soft skill training that provided by TVET provider and also university community. Skill development, starting from the baby age. Yeah. Some other reports by Manpower, Eurocham for Vietnam, and some other country in the region, for Vietnam particularly. Two characters is trust and family for the worker, for the professional. These key points repeat on some reports for Vietnamese worker and professional. So if someone who tell lies a lot from the baby, the web provider and the university, maybe not. maybe it's impossible. I think so. Impossible for TVET provider and university can train the people, someone who tell life from the baby. So I would like to express in this case social stakeholders responsibility for very important, particularly the media community, in which Mr. Vinh is a specialist in. Media is very important. Another example, everyone says that young people want to go to university for studying, but not TVET. TVET and skill development, that's the last choice. But media responsibility very important in this case. If on young people who can go university, many social media and family and other community, they support him or her, and maybe some give some award, money and some other gift for them. But if someone have a good skill from the ASEAN competition, for example, next year, they can have the gold medal, silver medal. I think it's rarely they can get a good and incentive from the family and the community.
Okay, thank you. Yes, another question, please.
Thank you. First of all, thanks to the presenters for insightful presentations. My name is Remo. I'm from British Council in South Africa. My question is directed to Mr. Viet from the government. You mentioned earlier on that quite a number of students quit jobs when they go and work because either there is low income that they are getting or anything. My question to you is, where do they go? It's quite interesting for me to know that, because when I came, I took a tour of Vietnam, and I must say what I saw was amazing. And I remember asking the tour guide, and I said, so what's the unemployment rate in Vietnam? Do you know what the answer was? He said, no, there is no unemployment rate in Vietnam. So I thought I should just mention that, as you give us your answer. Thank you.
This the question about unemployment rates in Vietnam is very difficult to answer, I believe.
May I ask you again your questions? Employment rate, unemployment.
Okay, sorry about that. My question is not about unemployment. I was just giving the context. My question is, you mentioned in your presentation that some of the students quit employment. My question is, when they quit, what do they do, or where do they go?
Good job. Everyone, they can choose the new jobs, new skills, for employment, for new income, higher income. The reason they quit their jobs, maybe for their capacity for new job more attractive. If they quit job and find another place to work, please, my colleague, Mr. Mark.
Okay, I would answer this question. I think it's a very interesting question. And I don't speak from the perspective of the government because it's very macro perspective, but I speak from my experience like in school, and we have a bunch of graduates. They get the jobs, they don't like it, they quit, and they go do some other things. So we ask them, why did you do so? So they said, well, because either I'm not qualified for the jobs, or either the job is done, or either the job has no future. And one of the things is, when they think the job has no future, that's the major reason when they leave the job. And what they do after that, usually You know, I would not say that in Vietnam we have certain kind of employment or unemployment rate. Everyone probably will have some kind of jobs at certain point in time. And for example, when they quit the jobs, they can go work out something else for some other people. And usually the industry, they utilize it for low labor cost, because people who just quit one job and go for another one, they get much lower pay. But usually they get more promises. And the thing is, I think I mentioned about labor licenses is more or less because if they stick to a job and if a certain job have a career path, then that's gonna work out in the future for them. The thing is, they just jump around, work this, get this amount of money, work that, get that amount of pay, and then eventually they don't have any kind of career, and that eventually form our real unemployment rate, in which no clear like career path and very low paid jobs.
We have a joke in Vietnam that the unemployment rate in Vietnam is the lowest in the world, and because when they are unemployed, they can self-employ. So they can go to the trees, they can go to the farm, they can do whatever small job that they can think about. So it's very difficult to identify whether they are unemployed or they are self-employed. So we have time for one last question. Do you have yes, please?
Hi, my name is Samelda. I'm from Pelita Harapan University, Indonesia. Well, today's presentation has provided a very good insight of how triple helix has been implemented in Vietnam. Well, my question is about how Vietnam anticipates skills matching, because as you mentioned that skills matching is like a moving target, and how can universities and industries work this out? Once the university has set their curriculum to match the industrial requirements of qualification, but then after the students graduate, the skills matching that has been required by the industry has changed. So what do you do in Vietnam to anticipate this kind of thing? Thank you.
Yeah, maybe Mr. Bao.
This question is more for the government.
Yeah.
Probably Mr. Viet can answer first. Oh, okay. Skills matching, that's a big one. Usually we have some employer survey, because we also follow certain guidelines in terms of accreditation, and we do it like almost every year. And so we take in the new information about how they want us to change the content of our curriculum and things like that. But I would say to you that we have a lot of like contrary feedback from different businesses and industries. So for us, the job is really difficult in deciding which one is the right thing for our student. And that right thing may be like 4 years from now when they get graduated. We usually get consultation a lot from our foreign partners, because they already like a couple of years ahead of Vietnam, and especially in engineering and technology, they can tell us like where the industry will go. And usually, I would say in engineering and technology, we mostly follow our partnering university in the US. But for like business, accounting, hospitality and tourism, and other like softer disciplines, the question is really difficult. Yeah, and I think he can answer that.
Yeah, Mr. Viet.
Okay, thank you for your question. That's related to the labor market information. So some question we have to answer are who needs what, how much, and by when. Where skill matching occurs. Eventually, this contingent on rules and information. According to Vietnamese regulation and policy on the labor market, in particular in the defense sector, when we are developing curriculum, Yeah. Although that's issued by the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Labor, we had to conduct some surveys, skillists from the companies working on the field. We conducted occupational analysis, task analysis to identify which is essential knowledge or critical skill to do the task. And then we group this skill and knowledge into the module or other subject, yeah, for the training course. Yeah. After the course, we develop assessment tools for certification, particularly the skill testing tools and methodology. Then the training of assessor, training of trainer, yeah, according to occupational standards, competency standards. However, as mentioned before, the information provision from the country, from the company side, maybe lack of information. Maybe for know-how reason from Intel Vietnam and some other countries, Honda, Toyota, they could not say what is exactly the skill and the competition and know-how we need, of course. Yeah.
All right. So still it's everyone's homework.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. We have a wonderful presentations and great discussion today. To conclude, I would like to just to give you a very short story about two of the academies that I've been working with, like the MIT and the Academy of Journalism and Communications in Hanoi. What we are doing with them is we have yearly what we call the career consultation seminars with the industries, with the academies, and every year we'll find out what kind of skills, what kind of jobs that the industries will need in the next few years, something like that. So with that, they can adopt and adjust the curriculums, and even they can design curriculums for the trainings. And of course, they will need the government to be involved, approve whatever they bring to the courses. And that kind of things are working pretty well here in Vietnam for the couple of years by now. So thank you very much, the presenters, Mr. Viet, Mr. Hai, Mr. Bao, for the great presentations. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for sitting here until this time. So have a wonderful lunch today and enjoy the rest of the time. Thank you very much.